everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of Se Vuelve Podcast. My name is Monica, and I want to thank you for being here. All right, so this is going to be a couple part series, right? The last episode, I kind of talked about how I wanted to do separate episodes to talk about kind of like my experiences, like working this long term assignment. A couple episodes back, I kind of mentioned how, or maybe I didn't mention it because I think I was kind of holding back in the episode. I was completely like sad or devastated that my summer was going to be cut short. I talked about how I think even in another episode that I had just finally started to get comfortable with going outside. And those that know me, they know how important walking and being in nature is to me. It's almost like a meditative space, or it's a calm, it relaxes me. I know that there's like scientific evidence of receiving like sunshine and, blue skies and being in nature feels like a place of almost like reflection and meditation, like being out there. It made me really sad because I had finally started to be comfortable going for walks. All of a sudden, my life was going to be uprooted. And I knew I just had this like feeling that this was like a big deal. And I know that they had mentioned 3 to 4 weeks. Obviously, that went longer than that. Obviously, I almost did 2 months. I was sad because in the summer is when I tend to go outside. I am very much a warm weather type of person. I feel the most energy in the summer. I was almost, I don't want to use the word morning rate, but okay, I'll use the word morning rate. The fact that my summer was going to be gone because I knew that once I went in, I was going to completely immerse myself. But I guess the good thing was that the warm weather ended up extending past August, almost into September, maybe even in October as well. Not that I was spending like much time outside because a lot of my time was spent working or preparing myself for the week. Let's go to how it happened, right? They called me on Friday around 3:30. I obviously, school was starting the following Wednesday, but Monday was going to be like the first day for all teachers because there was meetings and trainings and this and that or whatever. Monday, I show up to the school and the like one of the secretaries there was like, "Oh, what are you like? Who are you working for?" I'm like, "I don't know what the teacher is." So then I go to ask the principal. The principal gives me like a different grade level and then subject, and I was like, "No, I thought it was this." I ended up doing 7th grade bilingual science. I remember stepping into the classroom and immediately feeling overwhelmed. I remember they had just thrown lab tables and chairs into that like room. Believe that the chairs were even, I think, like stacked up on the tables. There was boxes of like books, and I just felt overwhelmed because like my type A self, I don't know what I thought I was coming into. I wasn't expecting that, right? I was expecting a little bit more order. I knew that that room was used for something else. The first thing that I did was like sanitize the desk, the teacher's desk, right? I'm like, okay, let me put my stuff down because unfortunately, and I'll say unfortunately, the first day of like a teacher institute, first day of work or whatever, right? We were supposed to come to the school, like from the school, we're being bussed over like 25-30 minutes away to like the junior college, and we're having like an orientation. We're loaded onto these buses, we're on our way to the junior college. I'm kind of sitting next to two of the other bilingual teachers. I think the orientation was supposed to be like 2 to 3 hours. I don't remember now at this point. So we get off of these buses, we go into the field house of this junior college. I think they were giving like awards that certain schools have won. Then it was like awards for teachers that have been there for, don't quote me, but like maybe like 10, 15, or like many, like it was like kind of like that, like a lot of years. The next thing was that we were getting like this motivational speaker to speak to us. I'm gonna be realistic with you guys because how do I say this? For me, what would have benefited me was like being at the school and be able to assess like the situation of like my classroom and organize and everything. And the reason why I say this is because I know a lot of people thought this, but it felt like a waste of time when you can be doing something for your classroom or whatever. I remember just like sitting there and be like, these were the most comfortable chairs, and just having to wiggle because we were sitting for 3 almost 4 hours. What the speaker said, yeah, it was interesting, but it could have been done over Zoom or something. Like, let's be honest. We could have been sitting at the school over a Zoom and not have to waste the money on the bus transportation, waste all of our time like going over there. The reason why I say this is because those 2 days, you would think that those 2 days would be like, okay, school class starts on Wednesday. So, you'll have time to work on your classroom, get things organized, this, that, or whatever. No, those 2 days, you're literally going from one meeting to another meeting to this meeting to whatever. After that, like orientation, whatever, we had our lunch, and after lunch, we were in meetings until the end of the day. And the same thing was done for the Tuesday. Meetings after meetings. And I think there was like a little bit of time maybe where you got to arrange your classroom or whatever you needed to work on. And I think the 2 days before school starts, it should be for the teachers and for them to decide what they do with their time. This orientation stuff and meetings and whatnot, I personally think that was a waste of my time, and I could have used my energy or my whatever to put into what I needed to accomplish. And I know they did it probably because they want to create like this team environment. Could have done it the week before, because the week of, it is so overwhelming and stressful. And on top of it, on Monday night, the sixth grade team had to stay because they had like their like an open house, and then I had to stay on Tuesday because our open house. So I believe our open house was until, don't quote me, like 6:30. I don't remember now. So for me, that first week, I ended up doing like 11 to 12 hour days. I'll probably talk about this a little bit more in a future episode, but I felt disrespected of the person that I am, because all the teachers, they were given the week prior to come in and set up their classrooms, where I literally had 2 days. I had 2 days to set up my classroom. So that Monday, I believe after the whole day of like craziness, meetings, craziness, the meetings and stuff and orientation, I ended up being able to kind of like arrange my room a little bit. I wiped down all the tables and, kind of figure out what the layout was going to be, because on top of it, being a science class, my room was tiny. Some of the other science teachers have huge rooms, but mine was a little bit tiny, so I had to figure out how to arrange like my desk and whatnot. So I ended up kind of getting it arranged, and decorating was like a thing that I ended up doing in the future, and I did it in like steps, because the room, the way it was kind of dark, it was kind of like dingy. One of the curtains or windows which had like built-in curtains, was broken, and I couldn't get like light in there. So I wanted to, brighten it up as much as possible. So before that went like, there's a window by the door, like a long window or side window that was covered in like black or brown paper. I don't remember now. I ended up like ripping it out, and it got a little bit of light in there. For me, that, once again, I'm a type A, but also when you set up an environment, it feels welcoming. And especially to me, like some of these subjects are not going to be people's favorites, but at least if you have like a cozy, welcoming environment, hopefully that changes. And that was something that in my brain, why I also felt overwhelmed, right? Because I wanted the time to make this comfortable, right? To make it comfortable for the students. And I felt like, I'm gonna be honest, what I would think, it felt like a jail cell. And I hated that. I'm like, dang, like I don't want it to feel like this. That first week was very overwhelming. I mean, it was overwhelming almost like throughout the whole thing, but it just felt even more stressful that week because I had to build a classroom, and not just like in the physical space. I had to build a classroom like online. There's like Google Classrooms. Each class is supposed to have a Google Classroom. There's certain things that I had to create, which is completely different to other long-term assignments that I've done, because when I did that, these teachers already had their classrooms arranged, their seating, their like seating charts, rosters for like, there's like a tally system, so if they don't follow an expectation or direction or whatever, you write them down. There's a lot of like these little things that you don't think about, that I maybe didn't think about, that I knew I needed more than 2 days to do. And I felt like that was such a disservice to me and disrespectful of me, because I feel like I go above and beyond for some teachers or the assignments that I take. And for them to do that to me, to only give me 2 days to figure out my classroom and everything, it was messed up. Teachers were given like at least a week before to come in and decorate and slow roll, and obviously they got paid for that, or it's in their contract. Whereas for me, and I don't know if this was the case, but it felt like, oh, so we don't have to pay her to come in, because I probably wouldn't have come, or maybe I would have, out of the kindness of my heart, to assess the situation. I would have probably done that. It almost felt like, oh, we'll get, like, it's within the week of like, the school starting. Okay, we'll pay her for the 2 days. But it was a complete disservice to me, and it made my job harder. And I can't even say that that was the hardest part. And to kind of show you like the impact of things, it was to the point that when I went in, I had nothing. So when this teacher was a brand new teacher to the district, to the school, and actually the state, I had no materials. I had no pencils. I had no pens. I had no markers. I had no crayons. I had no color pencils. I had no paper. I had nothing. And I feel terrible, but I'm so grateful for the people that helped me out. Like, I literally was like, I'm overwhelmed. I feel like this way, and it feels so bad, like, doing that, because I know that I wasn't the only one that was overwhelmed. Like, that week is overwhelming, like, period, to everybody. So I just felt bad, like, I was complaining. So thank you to those individuals who listened to me complain that week. I don't think I'm much of a complainer, but I had to let out my frustrations, because the type A in me, the control freak, was just like, what do I do? Thank you to those individuals that, one, heard me or listened to me, and also provided me with temporary supplies. And as I was saying, it's to the point that, there were so many things that I did not have, that the kids would even kind of like joke, but not joke. Or they would say this in a joking manner, but they would literally say, like, are we poor? That would like kill me. I ended up getting like some materials by that Friday. We ended up getting like a brand new sharpener, color pencils, crayons, paper, construction paper, which was good, because obviously that first week is kind of like introductory, right? Getting to know me. And then the next couple days was getting to know them. So we did little fun activities for them to be able to move around, because a lot of the times, obviously, they're kind of like forced to sit down and whatnot. So that was the first week. And like I said, I think I worked 11 to 12-hour days, but I'm going to be very honest with you guys. I didn't just work 11 to 12-hour days that like first week. So we're going to end it there. As always, I just want to say thank you to anyone who tunes in to listen. I would appreciate it if you could leave a review, and would be grateful if you could let me know what information resonated with you. Please follow and share on social media. The pages are at Se Vuelve Podcast, or my personal's at Se Vuelve Monica. Once again, thank you so much for listening. Nos vemos pronto. Talk to you soon. Bye, everybody.